Welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. This is Peggy Meyer. Today's guest is Danita Young. Danita has been a transformational coach for 15 years. She's dedicated her life to finding the solution to creating a lasting transformation in 30 to 90 days. She calls it her Align method. It is simple and effective and works in under an hour per week without meds or surface fixes. Align has helped thousands of people around the world overcome anxiety, procrastination, and stress so they can step into their full potential. So, welcome to the podcast, Anita.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too, and I'm excited for our conversation. As a former therapist, I dealt with a lot of stress and anxiety with various clients. So I am so curious about your Align method. And with that, can you just start the conversation by just sharing just a little bit more about you, your journey, and how it has led to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to get into, I've got, obviously we have many stories, but I always like to start with my most kind of like rock bottom moment, because if you are in a rock bottom moment, then you can relate to my story and recognize it doesn't define who you are. If anything, it's just going to be your story one day. It's going to be your comeback story someday. Okay. So for me, my story started off being about 8 months homeless, living out of my car, really trying to make a business work. However, the more I pushed that business to work, the more I found myself failing. And it was this constant decision to be, should I pay for shipping this week or should I pay for food this week? And to make those conversations as a business owner becomes one of the most scariest moments, because you want to make your business happy. At the same time, you want to be alive. And so it was one of my moments that I really thought that if the business fails, then I fail. And I created my identity wrapped around this business. I'm the original founder and owner of bootybands.com. And so that was a pretty big women's fitness company that was up for about 8 years. And what I really learned from through those ups and downs of a business for the first time in my life, is recognizing that, one, there's no such thing as failure. That failure is only if you decide to completely give up, lay in your bed, stare at the ceiling for the rest of your entire life, and never actually try again.
Yeah.
And it just means that's a pivot. And so a lot of people have fears of failure. And so by going towards them, we actually recognize, wow, you're still standing. Wow, you still have your birthday, you still have your family, and you still have your mission and your purpose within you. Your gift is not about what you do, it's about how you make people feel. And so it really allowed me to see that I am so much more than this thing called a business.
Mhm.
And so actually it was something I was able to sell and move on from, and really go towards what was really passionate about was self-development. Because weight loss as it is a self-development, but it's been so wrapped around the tools of workouts and nutrition that I was trying to perfect for so many years. And what I really found through the process was it was actually consistency and motivation that these women were really struggling with.
Mhm.
And so on my podcast, I really came into something that was very, very shocking for me. It was when I was doing an episode with a digestion expert, and she said, no matter how much GI mapping you do and prescription pills that you take, if you're stressed out, your digestion will always be off. And then I hated that word stress. It was kind of like, okay, so
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? Tell my clients to quit their job? They'd look at me and say, oh, I'm supposed to give up my kids. Like, how are you supposed to really not be stressed in this day and age? So I thought that was really interesting. So then I spoke to a hormone expert, and she says, it doesn't matter if you're taking HRT, hormone replacement therapies, doing everything you possibly can. If your body is in a state of survival mode, you will always have your hormones be thrown off.
Mhm.
I was like, that's interesting. And then I remember speaking to this guy that had sold his business. He was doing exceptionally well financially and had found his level of, like, call it financial freedom. And I said, so, was it working the 80 hours a week that I'm doing over here? Is it really like this work hard method? And he report back to me. He said, you know what? You could work 80 hours a week, but you could be going in the wrong direction if you're not in your alignment, making very costly mistakes. And
Yeah.
that hit me to the core. I felt like, you know what? That is me. I'm working 80 hours a week, making very costly mistakes by not being in my own alignment.
Mhm.
And so I had a couple more of those, and it just started to really flash back at me. No matter how much we try to do surface fixes, it doesn't really get to the root of it.
Mhm.
And to me, that really just made me inquiry of, what is this? Like, real, like, if, is it really that we have to uh, go on a beach and live under a rock our whole life in order to be financially free, or have our hormones or digestion to be okay? So to me, I just felt like, something's really odd with this.
Mhm.
And More of the story, the what allowed me to then step into the Align program was I wanted to make it simple for people, that they didn't have to quit their whole life. They didn't have to go layer upon layer in this self-development thing. But I found by going through this and helping women with weight loss, it was very similar to those that wanted financial freedom. It was also what's weirdly enough, I started working with marriages that started getting attracted to me. And then I started getting teenagers and parents started to work with me. And so I just recognized that across the board, alignment is with everything.
Mhm.
And to and so that was the story about how I got here was recognizing it's the foundation to everything.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I just really like that because last year my word was alignment for my word of the year. And, and I think I could have that every year because I feel like we are always kind of moving through life, figuring out, am I on track? Am I, in alignment? Does this feel right? Does this, am I going in the right direction? We're constantly, I feel like, questioning our decisions, but how do you help people like know? Like, how do they know if they're in alignment or not? Like, I'm sure this is what you do and how to help people, and then it becomes easy after that.
Yeah, you can't help somebody with alignment until you're fully there or at least going there yourself. And
Mhm.
so I agree. My mission was about obviously first going there myself, and then I was able to really give the stepping stones for everybody else. So when you know that you were there, is you're no longer reaching.
Mhm.
The idea of reaching is a form of scarcity mindset where we are thinking that this thing and this joy and this peace and this love is outside of us. But there's a flip that happens when you are in your alignment. All of a sudden, you can be. It's not the doing, it's the being. And it's almost like pulling back energy. It's being able to pull back your intuition. Like, so intuition, right? Like I ask people all the time, like if they know when to make a decision, I say, do you feel pushed to make that decision? Or do you feel pulled, magnetically, intuitively pulled towards that decision?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's the answer. So, no pushing, no reaching. That is out of alignment. You'll always be out of alignment. It's not until you feel the pull that is when you're in alignment.
that's real. I mean, I feel like that's really tangible for people to understand because we can just kind of feel it. It's that
Mhm.
energy that comes. Is like we know when we're gonna like trudging along, like pushed into something that we don't really want to do. We kind of know it's not right, but we're kind of doing it for other purposes. But that whole thing of being pulled, that energetic, like it's drawing you in. I mean, that is a great way to describe it because we don't feel it enough because we don't allow ourselves the time and
Mhm.
space.
You said a magic word, allow ourselves. Oh my gosh, is that a huge one with alignment? Yes.
And
Yeah, I
let
would say
people
that's the
allow
most.
themselves to be because to allow yourself, you have to like kind of take a time out and stop doing so much.
Mhm. And it is very hard for us that have not been used to that. If we are just so used to doing and stress and chaos, like to me, I was absolutely an addict of stress because I loved the high of adrenaline. I could get more done. And when I would get more done, I felt like I was enough.
Hmm.
So I found my loop and found why I constantly kept repeating this process, but felt like at the very end, I didn't have enough. So it was this constant like sucking energy
Hmm.
and that I now realize that I was in. So it's the allow is extremely important because if we come from a background of stress to begin with, meaning like if we were raised in a home of chaos, doom, gloom, stress, like I remember as a little kid, like never having sit down dinners. It was all about like grab your cereal, we're gonna go in the car, we're gonna be late. So I remember like as a kid, like eating my cereal in the car, like rushing around. I was raised by a single parent mom. And so it was just this like constant chaos. So as I grow up, guess what we do? We continue the chaos because
Right,
it's known,
right.
it's familiar, and our brains aren't and our bodies are actually built for more of a survival than a thriving. So instead of going towards something that actually works, which is alignment, instead I stayed in chaos for so much of my life because it was so familiar for me.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate because we just go. We just do. And that's just like one thing after the other, next. And I feel like I get myself into that kind of trap too, is like I'm not allowing myself to be present necessarily and just enjoy and allow that quietness to like pull me. It's just the next thing sometimes. And it's just like we get in that trap. A lot of us do. It's just like the root, and we call it can be a routine, right? Because it's just daily routine. Get up, do this, do this, do this, do this, go to bed, get up, do this, and just repeat. And so is there like a one or two things that you like really stress with people on starting to get in alignment? How do they like start? Because it's like if we're in this routine thing, it's like, wow, this might be foreign to us.
Yes. First, it's for somebody that wants it, right? Like once you're in it, I wanted so desperately for all of my clients, my friends, my family to be in it immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys got to feel what this feels like. And also look at the abundance that's going to come your way. It's really interesting how things do start to shift. And so the first step is I was pushing it on people that weren't wanting it. Now, that's okay because I did realize that we're all, in an analogy, we're all trees. Some people want to be tall trees, some people are small trees. And so if you've had your darkness and your pressure and you've been under, the length for some time, maybe you're still developing your roots. And that's not my decision to make you stop being the tree that you want to be,
Mhm,
because I truly think that the hardships that I've endured and the darkness I've endured is because of who I am today. So like if somebody would have tried to like cut that off, like I wouldn't be even the level of coach I am, right? And so now I look back with that and I have such a broader picture that
mhm,
I go, maybe they still are digging their roots and they want to continue to be more of an inspiration on the world. Cool. Okay, no problem. Their rock bottom is not my rock bottom. So by working with addicts, I have definitely learned that there has to be their time, their rock bottom, their moment that they're ready to. But then after that phase of now somebody is fully ready to step into that place, gosh, it's beautiful. It is, you just really sync up with their subconscious is the best way to do it because the subconscious is leading. And if you're as a coach, if you listen, you'll actually know what they're asking for, but you have to have your middle ear turned on, which is your deep listening ear. So you have like the consciousness that's going to say something, but you have the subconscious that's like really wanting some sort of transformation. So one of my most favorite calls ever is when I get a client on the call and like their subconscious is like, well, what about, and then and they're just going off. And I'm like, I'm smiling. I'm just like, oh, it's ready. Your subconscious is fully ready to be in alignment. And so my notes are just like through the roof. I take notes like crazy on my calls. And so I just laugh and I'm like, all right, we're going to go through each one of these at a time. And they're like, oh, wow, you really heard me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I heard all of it. Your subconscious is screaming at me right now. So the first step is, gosh, make it simple on yourselves. Like it's so freaking simple, you guys. Like I went on a merry-go-round, around and around and around and around for decades trying to find this thing called alignment. I had not a clue. It was right in front of my face the whole time. So the biggest secret I could give you is stop chasing the carrot on the stick, right? That's the reaching mentality that we're
mhm,
talking about.
mhm,
But what you recognize is whatever you're chasing is a feeling,
mhm.
and feelings are not outside of us.
Yeah.
Feelings are inside of us. And so once you start allowing your beautiful word that you used on this call today, Peggy, once you start allowing yourself to feel that emotion now, the law of physics, this is Albert Einstein, check it out. You asked me to have my favorite quote on here, Peggy. I'm going to tell you what my favorite quote is. We are all energy.
Mhm.
All you have to do is match the frequency to whatever outcome you want in your life. There is no other way, but you will get it. This is not philosophy, this is physics.
So
Albert
use the
Einstein
energy.
himself.
Hmm.
Albert Einstein himself said that. And so as soon as I figured that out, like it hit me like a piano out of the middle of the air. And I just said, wow, this whole time I have been chasing an emotion, thinking that when I'll get it, then I will feel happy. It is going to be a chase for the rest of your entire life.
Yeah. Because emotions are fleeting. Our feelings they flee. They're only really there for a short amount of time. And so then that just creates that cycle of just chase, chase, chase. And that's just,
Yep,
and so really it's the energy that we want. And if we align ourselves with that energy, I could just see how that could be very simple.
it
And
is.
like, how do people choose then that, energy there's lots of different frequencies and stuff. And I mean, I'm coming to like, I'm getting bits and pieces of a vision of some frequency chart in my head about how the energy and different emotions are on there. And it's like, how do people get into the right frequency for that energy? Now that if they know it, like then you can't unknow it. And so is there ways that people try like, okay, I want to get to this frequency. What do I need to do?
Yep. So we're working in the world of fourth dimension, which is the invisible realm. So third dimension is look around you, everything is solid. And that is what we've been trying to do is by moving solid to try to reach our goal. And that's why there's so much effort and there's so much time is because it's like the constant, like I have to do this and then I've got to do this. And just the word do
Mhm.
is like immediately I go, nope, and then I go be, right? So that's like the first thing to just step into the be. But it's really about when you talk about frequencies in the fourth dimension, right? This is the invisible realm that you have so much more control over time and your energy, okay, in this realm. And what it is each emotion that you feel is actually measured. So guilt and shame on that frequency chart that you have in your mind, and everybody could Google this right now. I have it memorized because something I totally live by because I'm a truth seeker. I love to go after physics where I know not only is this in philosophy, this is in the spirit or the secret book or like whatever books we want to read that might feel like it's fairy tale unicorn land, but also I lean towards physics so I can prove people this is the way. Because
Mhm.
not only can I do it, if I can make my clients do it, I know damn well I can make you do it.
Right.
So when you look at it as every frequency is not just a frequency, it's all about the emotions that we're in. Can we see the emotions from another person? No, we can feel them, but we can't see them. So that's the invisible realm I'm talking about. Same with our thoughts. Before an emotion comes a thought. And can we see those? No, we can't, but we can hear them,
Mhm.
right? So again, they're invisible.
Mhm.
And so what happens is guilt and shame is your lowest frequency. It is about 20 to 30 on the frequency chart. And then you have fears, then you have anger, then you have desire. Yes, I said it. I said desire. If you are desiring something really hard and you're finding that you're not getting it, is because you're in a low frequency. Desire is coming from a place of lack and scarcity. And so I'll teach you a different way to do it instead. But basically, anything from neutrality down is all a contracted energy, meaning you're going to have a very narrow focus. You're going to be doing the same things over and over again. You're going to be pushing with third dimension reality. You're going to try so hard, and you're going to always feel that level of burnout. That's contracting energy. And I can know when somebody's in that because if you're in fear, you're constantly going to be sending energy to fear that's not even real. And that is going to be sucking the life and the creativity out of you. You cannot be in creativity and fear at the same time. It's impossible. You cannot be in love and fear at the same time. It's impossible. And so what you recognize then is up from neutrality is you have courage and willingness and acceptance and love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Now those are a higher frequency.
Mhm.
Okay. You can go 700 plus as far as your frequency. And so that's an expanded energy.
Mhm.
When somebody is in a place of neutrality, that's a lot more expanded than fear. And so once you identify, you cannot be in both at the same time. I ask people all the time, give me the top two or three emotions that you feel the majority of the time. And what you'll find is those usually are clumped together in either an expanded or a contracting energy. Boom, you nailed it. So you're in a contracting energy in your life, you're thinking very narrow, and you're just looking for the wrong things.
Mhm.
But as soon as you're able to expand your frequency, it's going to naturally open you into a broader perspective. You're going to see things so much differently. Call it the glass half full, glass half empty mentality. All these little quotes we've heard along the way start to make a lot more sense when we've been to the other side. I don't know the best way to describe it, but
Right.
on the other side of contracting energy, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
explain. And you just see things more clearly. You understand that failure is not failure. You understand that your rock bottom moment is your comeback story. You understand that the fight in your relationship is actually the struggle to leading to the portal of your success. Like it's a higher level of your relationship. You get to see that the fight you have with your family was actually just the breakdown to get to the breakthrough. Like you're like, oh my gosh, you really start to really see something that is so much more magical rather than constantly beating you in the face. You recognize the bad is actually needed for the good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you're getting kind of into the point where like, sometimes those contracting energies are really they're very needed in order for us to kind of flip and see the other side. It could be our rock bottom, that gets like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. So let's do something different. And you talked about how like the invisible aspect of our thoughts, they're not tangible, like solid things, but they are so much in control of our frequency. And if we all have had times where we are feeling amazing and things are going well. We have to think about, I feel like we have to think about our thoughts during that time. Like, what are we thinking? We're usually thinking more like, oh, yeah, I can do this, like more unstoppable type things. You have the courage, you take the risks. But when we're in that fear mode and that contracted energy, we kind of doubt everything and we kind of like wonder and we question ourselves. I mean, it's like you're even talking about it, what words and where you're at in the contracted energy versus, you know, the more aliveness that and our body wants to be in that alive mode, which is aligned with our greatest energy. So finding that out, figuring that out, and then doing things, doing that word, being in that state, right? Of alignment or in that positive energy frequency stage. So like, is there certain things? I mean, once they get that idea, is there an exercise somebody does to kind of maintain that or kind of like make sure they're in that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I built a course
Yeah.
was because the idea of it's strong, right? But then actually to be living it, you might have limiting beliefs in there, right? Like there might be some things of the past that's been holding you into a place of familiarity. And so I had to go, how does this actually stick for someone? You have to really clear out anything that is making their thoughts think you're not enough, you're not lovable, you're not worthy. Like, right? So my course goes through cleansing out the old, the past, the unfamiliar, right? Going into that in a way that actually leans towards, NLP, or it can have um such as like I love physics, so I lean a lot towards that, and just kind of, and understanding emotions like and I use a tracking chart because I truly believe that anytime that we're taking on an adventure with some sorts of aspects of this, that if we don't track and measure our progress, it's like you don't know if it's working and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm putting all this effort into this self-development space. Like that's what I feel like was really missing in my journey. I feel like if I was able to know I'm on the right track, I would have like doubled down harder. I would have
Yeah.
gone faster, but I didn't know I was. So I spun around in circles for a little bit with it.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, you're to your point, yes, like we can dip our toes into there. Think of like it's like this. This is kind of what my visual says when you were saying that. We have a survival brain
Mhm.
and we have a thriving brain. Now, call it whatever word you want to call
Right.
it, but you're going to find that everybody's going to have a word for these states you can be in.
Mhm.
So it could be struggling, it could be successful, right? It could be spinning, it could be expanding, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But when you're in that state, you have to recognize that we're in neurological pathway loops. And the more that we continue to keep repeating the things of the past, the more it's just going to keep repeating in the future.
Mhm.
So the quickest way we can get a handle on this is knowing that our brain and body is not meant to thrive. It's not built to thrive. It's not built to make you a millionaire. It's not built for you to be the most famous, successful, healthiest person on planet Earth. No, it is built. Think of it as like caveman. You are built to survive.
Mhm.
And what that means is whatever you are comfortable, like whatever you are familiar with, if that's chaos, doom and gloom, stress, adrenaline, just get a ton of stuff done to try to feel like you're enough, but then you don't feel like enough at the end of the day, da, 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 da. Perfectionist, paralysis, procrastination, like all of that type of stuff. It's comfortable, it's knowing, it's familiar. And your brain and body are going to continue to keep going into that state until it fully knows that you're safe and the thriving brain. So, a lot of what I teach is being able to teach your brain and body it is okay and safe to be making millions. It's okay to have the relationship of your life. It's okay to sit back and work less and make more.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. We get stuck in the familiar comfort zone so much, but we don't realize how much it's holding us back from our full potential because we are meant to shine and just be the light for other people, but we can't do it when we're worried about if our safety or just surviving. And so that shift, and we've seen it at times. Everybody has gone through it, and they know that they've been in that thrive, but it's so hard to stay there. It's so easy to fall back in that comfort zone. But I think what I'm hearing is just the awareness piece of it, like
Mhm.
knowing when you're in, a contracted energy or a thriving state or struggling or, being courageous. I mean, then you can choose more often what you really want and being that person more often. And then that becomes more familiar, right?
Nailed it. Yes, exactly.
All
Mhm.
right. Oh my gosh. How can this has just been just, I mean, I love how you bring in physics because I kind of like that kind of science aspect of it too, because it just seems concrete to me and I can like, yay. So it's sometimes we need some different avenues in which to talk about these things
Mhm.
because we all have our different brains. And sometimes, yeah, it makes sense, this energy, but when you put the energy and the physics into it, I try to tell my kids and then they're like, I don't like science. I'm like, no, you live it every day. So like just put it in regular form. So I really appreciate you, bringing it out in this way. Um, where can people find out more about you and your Align method?
Yeah, my website, I have an awesome masterclass that you can jump on and if this interests you and you want to learn more. The
Mhm.
website's alignwithdanita.com. My name is Anita with a D at the beginning, so Danita. And there's a masterclass. You can jump on, learn more about it. Or if you just want to have maybe a free call and just sit down with me and say, hey, I don't know if this will actually work for me. I mean, I'll prove you wrong because you're a human being, so it's impossible. But let's say you just wanted to tell me your story or just jump on or debate me. I mean, I would love to debate because I'm always taking in new information.
Yep.
I don't think that the information is solid and concrete until I hear a different route. So unless you prove it to me, but right now, I mean, my life is successful and I am extremely stoked with where I'm at. So I know that the tools that I have got me to this place.
Mhm.
And so you could follow me on Instagram, Danita Young, and you can send me a DM. Let me know you want to jump on a call, and I'd love to sit and chat and go, okay, what's it to you? What's coming
Right.
up for you?
Right.
How long have you been stuck in your contracting energy? Because man, I was there for my whole life, like 40 years. So it was a tremendous roller coaster.
Yeah, and we don't have to be, negative to ourselves about it because, it's just what we knew at the time. And so we all go through that. Some of us have, are awakened a little bit earlier to our alignment and know that route. And some of us takes a while and some of us cycle in and out of it. But wherever you're at, like, there's just know that there's an opportunity to shift. There's an opportunity to shift your feelings and your energy and your thoughts into more of what's pulling you forward and what into what you are truly meant to be. So I appreciate this conversation. As we wrap up, is there anything that you left out that we haven't touched on that you feel really like impelled to share, or a quote or a thought that you would like to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I would say the part of you that feels it's actually possible, lean on that. The part of you that's maybe seen it here or there every once in a while, lean on that.
Mhm.
That's the hope. Lean on the hope because it is so powerful when you just don't give up on that hope.
Mhm.
And when you reach it, it'll be one of your greatest accomplishments and the most proud you can be of yourself because you'll notice that everything else becomes a ripple effect after that.
Yeah. You step into that person that positive energy that really has aligned and pull you towards that because the ripple effect is amazing on people around you, your community, the world. I mean, your light is awesome. Just go let it shine. Let it shine. Like be that person. So thank you so much, Danita, for sharing your align method with us today and just really helping us know that we have that power to shift our energy at any time to align more with who we are meant to be. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Nice meeting you, Peggy. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. Thank you.